What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to Comic Breakdown. Today I got another full video for you. Today we're covering Sentinels, the entire miniseries, issues 1 through 5. And to really set the stage for this comic, this is taking place directly after the events after Fall of Krakoa. Because now mutantkind, they've spread to the winds. They've gone far and wide, spreading to the four corners of the world. And that is where Trask comes into play, the son of the original creator of the Sentinels. More than this, Lawrence is a mutant himself. Today he carries on his father's legacy, but he's done so in a much different way. He's recruited a team and he's given them augmentations. And this is where we see that team. We have our team leader, aka Lockstep. We got our automatic rifleman, aka Sawtooth. Our rifleman, aka Shellback, and our grenadier, aka Voivod. These are our mutant hunters. Now Trask is working with Graymalkin, and together they're trying to bring down what they call the worst of the worst, if you will. Today, they're in Russia. Today, they face one of the deadliest mutants that has ever existed. But when they set foot in town, this town is empty. There's nobody here. They're trying to figure out what the heck is going on. But when Shellback makes his way into the church, this is where he finds the bodies. This is where he finds the blood. Before he can do or say anything, Omega Red is on him. Like a freaking hurricane, he comes barreling out of the church. Now, while we see this battle go on, we see some display of the Sentinel's powers. For example, Lockstep, his armor, he can use it more like a tangible thing. It's more an extension of himself. So we see the armor come off of his body, and he's able to grab a car nearby, and he takes control of it, and he rams it right into Omega Red. This is where Sawtooth comes in, and we see that Sawtooth kind of has ability of transmutating matter. So taking a local dump truck, she forms it into a almost damn near Gundam Transformer type situation. Armored up in what looks like a Hulkbuster, she goes toe to toe with Omega Red. Now obviously this team, they're getting thrown around. Shellback, he starts glitching out. And while Sawtooth and Omega Red are dueling it out, we see Voivod, he jumps on Omega Red. He tells everybody to run, and then he explodes. From the explosion, we see him crawling out. Omega Red not dead, but knocked out. It appears that Voivod, this is his kind of ability. He has the capability to explode and not die, though it definitely leaves him messed up. But there's a bigger problem at play. That problem is Shellback. We get a look at his face and it's like some kind of programming is taking him over. He starts speaking in ones and zeros. This is where Lockstep calls in to Graymalkin Prison. He lets them know that Shellback is grafted, and there's only one protocol moving forward. When someone becomes full grafted, it is time for execution. They're no longer salvageable, they're no longer usable, they're no longer viable. But Lockstep, he's hesitant to shoot. He doesn't want to do it. They have done this multiple times, it seems. And Lockstep is tired of killing his own team every time one of them becomes grafted. Whatever procedure gave them powers, this is a side effect. This is where we see Voivod. He puts a bullet into him, because no matter what Lockstep wanted, no matter how much he hesitated, this had to be done. There is no ifs, ands about it. This is what picks us up at Graymalkin Prison. This is the HQ for the Sentinels. It just also happens to be Xavier's School for Gifted Youngsters. Now, if you've been keeping up with the other X titles, you'll know what's going on with this whole situation. You'll know what happened with Charles Xavier, so on and so forth. There's a lot to it, but if you want to get caught up on that stuff, make sure you check out my videos. It covers all of it. But I will note again, just the utter disrespect of taking over Charles Xavier's School for Gifted Youngsters and having a giant Sentinel sitting in the front yard. Not only that, it's your prison for the worst of the worst, or what they deem the worst of the worst. But this is where we have a conversation between Voivod and Lockstep. Now, Lockstep, he's pretty upset. He's mad because Voivod didn't listen to orders. He didn't give an order to execute or anything of that nature. But Voivod goes on to explain that him and Shellback, they had an agreement. If Shellback became grafted, he wanted somebody to put a bullet in him. He wanted somebody to end his misery, to end the pain, to not let him become whatever cyborg they become. Now, in the midst of this conversation, this is where we have somebody else come and sit down. Somebody else by the name of Drumfire. This is their new gunny. This is how quickly Trask is replacing members of this team. They just got back from mission, and he's already dropping somebody new into the slot. Obviously, these guys, they don't like this. They're not happy about this. And so Lockstep, he's gonna go have a conversation with Lawrence Trask. And when he gets to his office, this is where we have a very interesting conversation. Now, when we originally see Trask, he's sitting here thinking about the day that he was reborn on Krakoa. But this thought is quickly interrupted by the arrival of Lockstep. Lockstep, he comes in here and he's mad. He's upset. He wants some kind of say in what's going on with his team. He doesn't want new people just dropped into his lap. He wants to feel like he has some kind of control here, like he's serving some kind of bigger purpose and he's a part of it. And as this conversation continues on, Trask gives us some very interesting dialogue. Now, he says in 1281, King Edward I ordered the extermination of every last wolf in England. There is this one forest. It just teemed with wolves. The slaughtering took months. And with the wolves finally gone, two villages on either side, they were finally able to reconnect after all of these years. But that's also when the bodies began to start dropping. You see, the wolves, without them, with their absence, an ancient blood feud between the two villages, a cause long forgotten, it reawakened. And so they waged war with one another. His father designed the Sentinel program with one thing in mind: mutant extermination. He says that the old fool mistook mutant for wolves, even when his own son's powers came to be. Until recently, mutantkind was simply a village on the other side of a dark forest. Their village was an island. The forest was an ocean. But now all of that is over. And without the wolves to frighten them back into their beds, the two species are gonna slaughter one another. The world needs wolves. It needs sentinels. Without either or, mutantkind and humankind, they're gonna go to war and they're gonna slaughter one another. So in Trask's mind, he has justified the Sentinel program by saying that it is an absolute necessity to keep mutantkind and humankind from waging an even bigger war. Now, later on, back at Lockstep's room, he's sitting here really talking to the AI of this place known as Perimeter. And he's kind of finding out that he's disposable, he's expendable. But while he sits here and thinks about all of this, he looks at a picture. In this picture, he has a son. At this point, he should probably be about 14 years old. He asks Perimeter if you can locate this person, and they're able to. Though he was able to somehow change his name, he thinks about calling his son, about trying to reconnect. Now, we're taken down to the Morlock tunnels. This is underneath the Graymalkin Prison. We have Sawtooth and we have Drumfire. They're escorting Omega Red to his cell. And Drumfire is just kind of getting the lay of the land. She's trying to understand what this place is and what it represents. The way Sawtooth sees it, it's not their responsibility. Their job is to grab the worst of the worst. They are strictly snatch and grab. Bad hombres only. What happens to them afterwards, they say that's none of their business. What we learn about the Sentinels is that this team is made up of people that have been injured in some kind of way, either by heroes or indirectly because of heroes battling. I mean, for example, Drumfire. Drumfire was taken out from a dragon Null had created. Drumfire was flying in a helicopter, and the dragon took them out. This nanotechnology that they're using kind of gives them a second chance at life. Another opportunity to be useful again. Another way to serve. Now, while all of this is going down, this is when Blob breaks out of jail. It appears that they're experimenting on him. They're probing him. They're doing something to him, and he doesn't like it. He bursts through the door, demanding that they stop hurting him. With Sawtooth jumping into action, we have Drumfire staying behind, making sure that Omega Red doesn't leave. As we pick back up with Lawrence Trask. At a board meeting, they're kind of trying to out him. After hearing that he's doing a lot of unauthorized missions and things of that nature, they're kind of getting a little bit squeamish. But he tells them that it's probably a bad idea if you don't keep me on board. You guys gotta remember that I'm a mutant. Not only am I a mutant, I'm a precog. You would be losing a huge, valuable asset. The only reason I'm not looking at the future right now is because of this medallion that I wear around my neck that my father had given me. Even when he was first resurrected, when all of those visions started coming to him, he saw what would bring them to the brink of extinction on Krakoa. That's why he restarted the Sentinel program. But he also saw other things. Tech stock, oil futures, locations of vibranium, crop failures, and so much more. So taking a precog off of the payroll is not in your best interest. And they can't deny that this information, it holds. And so they're going to give him a little more leeway. They're going to give him a little bit more runway to continue on his project and see where it goes. During this meeting, though, he gets a notification. We see an individual inside of a vat, only labeled Alpha Subject. We don't know who this is, what they are, or what this is supposed to be, but it's obvious Trask is keeping secrets. Back in the cells, this is where we pick up with Blob being taken down, but Omega Red, he has Drumfire in his grasp. This is where we see what she can do. We see that she begins to absorb all the ambient energy in the room, and she can redirect it, taking all that energy and shouting it into Omega Red's face. It slams him back, though this completely exhausts her out. She went straight Godzilla breath on him. You see, the nanotechs, the augmentations, it does something different for everybody. This is Drumfire. But as Drumfire starts to kind of come to, there's something going on. Something that Drumfire doesn't understand. Because this guy is supposed to be dead. He's not supposed to be around. Looking up, what she sees is Onslaught. Now this is going to take us into issue number 2. Now this is what takes us to years ago. We pick up during the Onslaught. While this battle is raging, while our heroes fight, there is an innocent that nobody saw. Nobody but Vision. Now Vision goes up to this girl and tells her that you gotta get to safety. And though she doesn't want to leave, she knows that her mother is dead. Wondering how Vision is able to stay so calm, so collected during a time of terror. And it's because of what he is. A synthezoid who doesn't necessarily process or respond to fear like you would expect a regular human being to. This girl, this is Drumfire. This is what led her down the path of wanting to find a purpose, figure out how to be a hero. This is what led her to the Sentinels team. But there's also something else going on with them. Now, they've been taking what they call mood stabilizers. This is supposed to help them out and prevent the grafting from happening. That's what they're at least being told. But they're getting ready for their next mission. A frontal assault is not going to work on this guy. All of them are going to have some kind of power dampening collars. They're going to use these to try and neutralize his mutation. That should be enough to be able to bring him in. But the place that they're going to, this is a country, it's run by bad guys for bad guys. And this place only has one prison, and it's the worst of the worst. So to wind up here, you gotta be a real freaking scumbag. It's your standard Rage and Roid fueled by Supermax, except the guards are all Hydra. Voivod asking the obvious question, why are we taking this guy from a Supermax prison just to put him in our prison? That's because this guy runs the prison. That takes us to 17 minutes later. Voivod getting thrown through a wall. He tried to go head to head with Sebastian Shaw, aka the Black King. And as Sebastian Shaw holds this guy, he can tell that this is Sentinel nanotech. But it's not Bastion's exotic. Truthfully, these guys have no idea what they have inside of them, as there is a full-blown riot going on. Our Sentinel team, they're doing everything they can to try and help him out. Sebastian Shaw knew that they would send somebody eventually, but Sentinels, that's perverse even for him. Now, Voivod's stuck in this situation. He does the only thing that he can do in these situations. He explodes. And from the explosion, we see Sebastian Shaw. He tells Voivod that that was very stupid. Like, you can't hurt me. When you fight me, you're only fighting yourself. Your own blows returned and redoubled like echoes. This is where Sawtooth comes charging in and knocks Sebastian Shaw off his feet. Now, this whole battle is going on, but there's someone missing from the fight. That somebody is Drumfire. They're getting overrun, they're losing that fight up there, and they need some help. But right now, down in the tunnels, Drumfire's having some issues because Drumfire sees Onslaught. And as Onslaught goes to attack, Drumfire opens up. But when the hallucination fades away, the only thing standing before her or sitting before her is a dead Hydra agent. Being able to snap out of the hallucination, she heads to the battlefield. She jumps onto Sebastian Shaw. With Sebastian Shaw having a huge surplus of kinetic energy, she takes it off his hands. She drains him of every last joule of heat from his body. She turns him into a freaking popsicle. With their giant Sentinel ship coming in and crashing through the roof, our team heads out. With yet another mission complete, Omega Red Sebastian Shaw thrown into jail. We pick up later on at a diner outside of town. A diner that we've actually grown pretty familiar with if you guys have been keeping up with the X titles. We have this zebra mutant girl. She's been popping up in a lot of the titles as a background character. But we have Lockstep. He's sitting down with his son. After a long time of not talking, he's finally getting a conversation. They're finally getting the chance to kind of catch up on things. But while they sit here and have a conversation, he learns that his ex, his son's mother, she took some money from the wrong people. And now these people, they're starting to show up. They're starting to cause some problems. And so Lockstep, he's dealing with all this personal stuff, plus everything that's going on at work. When it comes to Dr. Ellis, she'd been working on a way to kind of undermine Trask this entire time. Trask having this Sentinel program, kind of trying to push her out. She wants to beat him to the punch. And so she's been working on creating her own Sentinels. This is where the Sentinel Wolf program really started. We saw the Uncanny X-Men, they have one of the Sentinel Wolves because it escaped and it went to be their friend. But we see that this is where it all started. And as you can tell from the early experiments, it wasn't going really well. It wasn't having a huge amount of success. But this is what takes us into issue number 3. This is where we recount the situation with Magneto. We have Dr. Ellis, who is sitting down with Drumfire. And right now, they're recounting the events that had transpired. Their mission, Fabian Cortez. Now, you guys, if you read the Mystique series, you know what's going on here. You know what's about to happen. Fabian Cortez is down here, and he's using his powers to help people. Even Lockstep, when he comes in here, he's like, what the hell is going on? And then he starts to question his orders. Like, why are we here to take down this mutant? He's not doing anything wrong. He's not a danger to anybody. But Trask tells him that you have to do this. Trask simply doesn't trust Cortez. He's like, you know, he's down there and he says he's helping people, but I don't believe him. I think he's up to something nefarious. There's no way he's just doing good. With his powers, he could set the mutant-human relations back decades. He has to be brought in. Now, Lockstep, he's ready to disobey orders. And I actually agree with him. When I was reading the Mystique comic, I was like, how the hell are the Sentinels going after Fabian Cortez for doing absolutely nothing wrong? But Lockstep, he was gonna disobey the orders. He was gonna tell Trask no. One of the civilians grabbed him, and that's when things got chaotic. That's when Fabian Cortez, he jumps out the window. And now the Sentinels, they go chasing him down. But by the time that they catch up with him, they find him knocked unconscious. wondering who the hell did this, wondering did the other Sentinels do this to him, and they say no. When they look up, what they see is Voivod getting bent to hell with rebar going through his body, and Magneto standing over him. And Dr. Ellis has to ask the question, you're sure it was Magneto? Because their assets put him in Alaska, and he was in really rough shape. So the fact that he's here, and he's fighting against you guys, doesn't really make sense. But she swears up and down that if you saw what I saw, you would know that that was Magneto. There would be no question about this. With Sawtooth being crushed into a ball, it doesn't appear to kill her, it just encapsulates her. Lockstep was no longer combat effective at this point. Somehow those mood regulators, it kept her in the game. When Drumfire went to attack, that's when Magneto set off a giant EMP, strong enough to knock all the Sentinels out cold. Truly amazing that any of them even survived it. By the time that they came to, Magneto was gone. Fabian Cortez was gone. But more than this, Voivod had been grafted. He was losing control, with Drumfire more than ready to put a bullet in him. We have Lockstep, who's not able to move his body because his augmentations, they're not working. He can only talk, and he is trying to say that I'm giving you an order. Don't you do it. We're not doing it again. We're not killing another one of our own again. Not for them. And honestly, Drumfire probably would have done it had Sawtooth not gun-butted her in the face and knocked her out cold. And so they're able to take him in. They take him into a cell. And this is where we have Trask talking to him. Now, it was only talking in zeros and ones, but Trask says that you can cut out the gibberish. It's just you and I now. This is when he starts talking to him. Now that he is fully grafted, fully taken over, he's not just Voivod anymore. He is now a we. Trask kind of confiding and saying that they're trying to shut down my Sentinel program. And it responds by saying, I know why. One too many graphs. But telling him, what do you think they'll do when they find out where your nanotech is really coming from? What do you think they'll do when they find out all the corners that you've been cutting? What led you to where we are? They'll call you a mutie. They'll call you worse. He tells Lawrence that when the time comes, you're gonna be no different than me. You'll be sitting in this cell just like I am. This is what picks us up a little bit later with Lockstep. Now, Lockstep, he decided to kind of deal with the people that have been bugging his kid in X. Drop $7,823 on the table, the exact amount that she borrowed. And he tells him, like, business is done. Leave him alone, call it a day, move on with your life. But as he goes to walk away, the guy says, you know, what about the vig? What about my cut? What about my interest? And when they go to beat up Lockstep, that's when he activates his armor. They thought that they were gonna be able to beat the crap out of him, take his money, and then expect more from him. But when that armor activated, when he smiled, the blood began to spill. This is what takes us into issue number 4. And we're picking up shortly after the events of him dealing with those bad dudes. As he stands outside his kid's house, he thinks about going inside. He thinks about talking to him, maybe having a conversation, but in the midst of this, the ones and zeros start to come out. The grafting is starting to take effect. It's slow moving, but Lockstep is surely going to be taken over. This is where Dr. Ellis pulls up and tells him, hop in with me. What if I told you that there's another way? What if I told you that there's another option? Picking up a little bit later, this is where we have Scurvy and we have Trask. After 8 people had been murdered, after what Lockstep had did, they took a sample from Voivod. They got the nanomaterials from both the Mark Sentinel models. So Scurvy is really here to find out what manner of bag are you leaving for us to hold? Down below in the cells. This is where we have Voivod talking to Sawtooth, who is outside of the cell. He says that Trask lied. He said that grafting was the end, but it's not. It's a door to step through, and you'll see how we're all connected. We're all family, all through the boy from the junkyard. And so she breaks down the door. She breaks it down so that they can go find this boy. Now, in an interesting turn of events, we pick up with Drumfire. Drumfire has been dealing with the hallucinations of Onslaught for quite some time. Drumfire just stuck in absolute fear. When Onslaught shows up outside her window, she loses it. She blows the walls right off of her room. But in the smoke, in the clearing, what we see is not Onslaught, but Charles Xavier. Obviously, prior to him taking off to the stars, he's still down in the cell, and he apologizes for all the theatrics, but he's been trying to get her attention for some time now. And so while they begin their conversation, we begin to understand, at least from Lawrence's perspective, why the program has always been a failure, why the Sentinels always fail. She says it really doesn't matter because if there's Neo Sentinels, Wild Sentinels, Stark Sentinels, Chicken Fried Sentinels, it don't matter. They are all made from the flawed image of their creators. The prime core directive always was kill all mutants. And so creating a Sentinel program without the murderous core directive, it's not a simple thing. He took a shortcut. He says that there was a kid, a nobody from a junkyard in Wisconsin by the name of Justin. This is a reference back to Sentinel #1 back in 2003. He found a damaged Sentinel. He thought that he might be able to repair the thing, and he did. He did the impossible. He opened it up and he changed its core directive. He changed it to never abandon him. No matter what, not ever. Never abandon Justin. From then on, the boy and him, they had marvelous adventures together. Joining the Avengers Academy, getting to play hero for a while, getting to do all of that stuff. But when he died, his Sentinel, even broken beyond repair, it obeyed its core directive. Even if it had to rewrite the rules of human biology, it flooded the boy's corpses and improvised nanotechnology, transforming him into something else. Something bold, something new. The source of Lawrence's proprietary Sentinel nanotech. He has been harvesting the boy's tissue for his 10 soldiers. This is where the Sentinel program comes from. This is what is going on with all of our heroes. So when they are grafting, they are almost becoming one with him. Their consciousness isn't completely taken over, but they're becoming something different. They're becoming kind of one with him. Now this is where we pick up with Sawtooth and Voivod. They're making their way to Justin. They have to fight their way through Sentinel dogs. Ones that Dr. Ellis had recently created, she let loose, and these things are ferocious. But when Voivod says that he's gonna do it one last time, we see Voivod explode with a huge detonation, taking the Sentinel dogs with him. This gives Sawtooth the opportunity to get to Justin, to find him in that vat, and back at home base. Dr. Ellis has a creation of her own. Lockstep integrated with the AI system Perimeter. He has become something new, something different. And that leads us to our final confrontation in issue #5, our final issue. We pick up with Sawtooth finally meeting him, and Justin says that you're of our flesh. She's piecing this together that he is the junkyard boy. We learn that Trask incapacitated them and harvested their tissue. But if you're asking how this came into existence, he doesn't really understand himself. This is where we see Sawtooth begin to start grafting, and he tells her that you're becoming our flesh. Your core directive is to never abandon us no matter what. The nanotechnology in your bloodstream is adapting to all of this for that purpose. Begging him to stop it, he's really not able to. This organism's core directive is not under his conscious control. Nonetheless, Sawtooth tries breaking him out of his prison, only for something to shoot her hand. That something is Lockstep, with Lockstep showing up on scene. We pick up at Graymalkin Prison. We pick up with Drumfire. Now, Drumfire is trying to figure out what the hell is going on. Really, he's saying that I'll pay for my crimes later, you can hate me all you want. But I've been trying to warn you about this place, about what you really are. This is where Charles shows her everything. He's telling Drumfire that the junkyard boy, he needs your help. He needs your help, but this isn't something that you're gonna have to do alone. Picking us back up with Lockstep. Lockstep is just beating the crap out of Sawtooth. And while Sawtooth can't really do much, the grafting is beginning to take effect, and this is putting her in a weakened state. So while he's just dropping blows on her, this is where we have the arrival of our giant Sentinel coming in and just squishing him. And while we see him crushed underneath the fist, Lockstep's pretty sure that this is gonna be the day that he dies. Trying to call his son one last time, Perimeter doesn't let him. In fact, Perimeter takes over his body completely. And taking over his body, it uses it as a meat puppet. It attacks, goes right after Sawtooth, blows right through the Sentinel, and as they fly up into the sky and come crashing down, in the crater that remains, we see Lockstep trying to finish her off, but coming up from behind. This is where we have Justin, trying to help him, trying to free him and bring him back from Perimeter's control. He was too afraid. Lockstep has died. And so in the aftermath of this battle, Drumfire, Sawtooth, and then Justin also reactivating the Sentinel. Today is something new. They're all gonna have to be something new. They're gonna come after them, Dr. Ellis and the others. And so this Sentinel, they're gonna need armor. A long time ago, a Sentinel was given a new core directive to never abandon Justin no matter what. But the thing about it is, those bios are locked. It's impossible to change the core directive unless the unit allows it. And so we have to ask, why did the unit allow it? Perhaps it was so damaged it believed him to be an extension of itself, a component it needed of repair. But he believes it chose otherwise. He chooses to believe otherwise. He chooses to believe that it was keeping a promise. And so the three of them together with their brand new Sentinel, they carve their own new path, a new direction. And as we close out this comic back at Graymalkin Prison, this is where we find Lawrence Trask, no longer having any kind of power dampening on his neck, held up in this prison, now used as a source of information for Dr. Ellis. He says in the future, they will be legion. There will be a terrible war of thunders. The Dark X-Men will rise. A Wolverine will see the stars. In the future, the children of the Atom, they will all hunt the Father. And all who open the Executioner's briefcase, they will all be stung. That will be where this issue ends. So let me know what you guys think down in the comments. You know, when I first picked up this series, I wasn't hugely excited about jumping into this, but by the end of it, I was like, damn, this was actually a really good story. This was a lot of fun, it was really enjoyable, and I love the premise of taking Justin and the nanotechnology fused with him, not necessarily making him a mutant, but making him something different. Not even making him phalanx, making him something completely different of that, but having the potential to essentially expand and become a hive mind. He could be very, very dangerous, but he also could be a huge source for good. This was an interesting story though, because the government, you know, they were taking people for their program that were broken from heroes dueling it out with some kind of villain along some kind of path. Whether it be Null, whether it be more recent, all of these people were grabbed from some kind of tragedy. They were wounded, they were hurt in some kind of way, and this gave them a way to feel useful in a world filled with superheroes and supervillains. And at first, it seemed like they were doing the right thing. I mean, you're taking down Omega Red. Historically, notoriously, he's a bad dude. Sebastian Shaw, same story. Fabian Cortez, you could argue, but these days he's definitely more reformed, and even Lockstep began to question what was going on when they found the dude just helping people. What's even crazier is that Cyclops and his team never came after these guys. Maybe it's because the entire operation didn't really last long, so they didn't need the X-Men to come deal with it. This thing really imploded on itself. But Dr. Ellis still having control of Xavier's school, them not really doing anything about it, this place still being a prison. I can't wait for the X-Men to finally deal with it. Now, we're supposed to be seeing this with the Age of Revelation. We'll see if that actually takes place. We'll see how it all plays out. You know, Cyclops is supposed to send a message back to himself, his younger self, and back in time, and prevent it all from happening. We'll see. All in all, though, it was a great series. I had a lot of fun reading it. Let me know what you guys think. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know your theories. If you want to get caught up with this series, go ahead, check out the link in my description as well as the top of this video. It's gonna get you completely caught up on everything that's been going on with all the X-Men titles. If you would like to support the channel, you can always do so by joining the channel membership. Much like Patreon, having a bunch of different tiers, a bunch of different perks. If you can't do that, if you just can't find that in your budget, the free way to help us out, subscribe to the channel, like this video, hit that notification bell, and with that being said, until the next breakdown.